women, and we are not afraid to embrace our femininity, embrace our whole self holistically, and pursue success in a way that makes sense to us. And through the work that I do, I have been able to support women in doing incredible things, building $1 million businesses, launching new consulting firms, becoming authors, becoming coaches, all sorts of wonderful things, rising to the C-suite in their organizations through leaning into who they are really meant to be. My philosophy is you were born to succeed. If we just tap into what we need, we will be what we need. And so I focus on helping you become the person you were called to be. That's why I call it Becoming Iconic. And so any minute now, Sihle will be joining us, and I'm going to read her bio for you so that you can understand who we have, who's going to have this conversation with us, because we need to think differently about what it means to be strong as a woman. So hold on a second, because I'm about to read. Let me put on my glasses for this. All right, so as we wait for her to come on, and she'll be on at the top of the hour, in about a minute or so, I'm going to start reading her bio. Sihle, I love that name. I have to make sure I'm pronouncing it properly. So any Zulu people in the house, by all means, tell me if I'm saying it correctly. Sihle Bolani is an award-nominated author, business strategist, and speaker whose work focuses primarily on organizational culture, diversity and inclusion, women's equality, and career development. Sihle is in the house. Everyone wave at her. Hello, hello, welcome. All you have to do is hit the camera button icon. There you go. She's a pro already. Invite her on while I continue to read her bio. Her highly acclaimed book, We Are the Ones We Need, The War on Black Professionals in Corporate South Africa, earned her recognition as one of the leading voices in workplace issues such as racism, gender equality, employee engagement, authentic leadership, and DEI. Her podcast, The Workplace Revolution, is currently in its second season, with its highest listenership in South Africa, the USA, the UK, Germany, and France. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts. And without further ado, y'all join me as we welcome Sihle. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hi. Thank you. How are you?
I am good. I am good. I'm so grateful that you're coming on to have this very real conversation, because we are tired of being strong. I loved the title of your book. I loved it. Nah, keep your strength. I loved even how, like, listen, I'm not even going to make it, I'm not linking it in, I'm not professional, I'm just calling it as it is. Nah, keep your strength. It is phenomenal. And I have to say,
thank you.
Oh, are you still, okay, good. It started to freeze for a second. So can I tell you, I got the book first because of the conversation we were going to have, but I was unprepared. Unprepared, because it is so real. It felt like I was sitting with you and we were just having a girlfriend download, and it was deep. And you took us through your grandmother, your mother, your daughter. Listen, y'all, I hope you are ready. I hope you're ready, because am I saying it right? Sihle.
Yes.
Is that correct? I've been working on it. Let me tell you, I love that name. She is unapologetically feminine, unapologetically a powerhouse, and I am so honored to have you be here. Unapologetically iconic. How about that? So I'm so happy for this conversation. Welcome, Sihle.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to being in conversation with you again. It's always such a pleasure.
Yes, it is indeed. So why don't we just start right at what made you decide to write this book?
I think more than anything was curiosity. Before I knew that the book would be this book, I was really just curious about society. Why are we the way we are? Why do we behave in the way that we do? Why do we treat each other the way that we do? how do we get to this point? Because I was and still am in a space where I look around, I'm just like, this is not it, you know? In society, in our families, in our communities, in the workplace, there are just so many interpersonal issues that exist. And so I thought, okay, so as opposed to trying to figure out with what I have access to, which is information about myself and my family. Let me try and understand that and how, my family's experiences have influenced me and the way I am, the way in which I show up, and what experiences have existed intergenerationally that just seem to be a pattern, and why does this pattern exist? And so I really started unpacking my grandmother's story, and then leading to my mother's story. And then I started seeing, wait a minute, there are some things here that are not making sense. You know, my grandmother being a young mom, my mom being a young mom, I became a young mom. And I was just like, why is this pattern repeating itself? And then I had to look at how have people in our families and in our communities responded to us falling pregnant at young ages. And, you know, I think the biggest thing at the core really of why I wrote this book was really the pursuit of freedom, and the freedom that comes from releasing the shame that so many of us are carrying, that we have no business. The shame that holds us back from living our fullest, most beautiful, most authentic lives. And that really is the crux of how I decided to write this particular book.
Oh, I love it. I'm a huge proponent for releasing shame, right? Because shame is that negative energy and it doesn't serve us. Conviction, which is the awareness of, okay, and this is the courage that you showed, being able to look within and look back and say, okay, what are the patterns and how can I identify them, right? Whatever they may be. Arrest what needs to be arrested, which is that conviction energy, right? And I thought it was such a courageous book, such a courageous book. I loved how you, that particular message where you just said how your grandmother, your mother, and you were all young, single, well, your grandmother wasn't a single mother, but you were all young mothers. You and your mother were single mothers. Is that correct, right? And what that felt like, and how the society accepted you. I also loved how you explored each woman and asked some hard, powerful questions and talked about how each of us in our, you know, and I say each of us because even though it was your story and your mother's story, your grandmother's story, I saw myself in it. I saw myself asking these questions. For example, when you talked about thinking about your grandmother and how she used to be, she was a very feminine woman, a very elegant woman, and a very particular woman who would say to you, you know, are you tucked in? Are you, you know, the way you would comport yourself and how that impacted your way of seeing yourself. I hope you're still there because it seems to be cycling. Can you see me? Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, good. It was cycling for a minute. So I was saying how your grandmother, the way she would want you to be your best, how that impacted you and created some sort of body dysmorphia, right? And I was like, oh, hello, I can relate, right? You know, I can relate. Just the past. And you know, I just thought it was such a courageous look because many of us are not even courageous enough to look and to say, okay, in order for me to understand the external, I have to understand the internal. So you were courageous enough to look and then to be able to detail it out, to tease out the wisdom. I loved that. And so thank you for having that courage to say the way it's working is not working. And it starts with me, because you kind of put yourself on the hot seat and how glorious it has been. So thank you for doing that. And so you released shame, right? And you decided to put this book out. If there was, before we go down into the nitty gritty, what is the overarching message you want someone to receive from this particular book? actually not someone, let's just talk to women, because we the ones that we need help. So tell us.
The biggest thing really for me is I want women who read my book to be able to, when they walk away from it, be reminded of the fact that we actually are in a position to decide for ourselves what strength looks like and when that strength needs to show up and when it doesn't need to. We've been socialized to have this resilience, but it's a very toxic resilience that we've been, taught to subscribe to. A resilience that says, no matter how much people harm you, you must kind of brush it off your shoulders and keep it moving. No matter how much you may be in need of support, you must always put other people before you. No matter how many times your partner mistreats you, that's just how men are. So just be strong and endure it. No matter how badly the workplace treats you, just be grateful you have a job. We don't have to tolerate that. We can define for ourselves what it is that we want. We can establish boundaries that serve us first before it serves other people, because it's not, I've come to a point in my life where if somebody says to me, you're selfish because I decided to honor myself in making a particular decision, that's okay. I'm happy to take selfish because it means something completely different to me. It means that I'm finally doing what I need to do for myself. Because I was definitely caught in a cycle of people pleasing for the longest time. When I think about it in the context of the workplace, it manifested itself in being an overachiever and being a perfectionist and all of these things that would just run me into the ground and burn me out. In friendships and in romantic relationships, you are going above and beyond and below and everything, trying to be everything to everyone all the time, while not being anything to myself. And so this really is a book that is an ode to freedom for us women.
Mm. Mm. So many yummies in that. So many yummies in that. That the permission to design the life that works for us, and whatever it looks like for us. And I loved the way you kind of broke down strength, redefining strength for yourself. Because I think for me, when I saw the title of your book, because I know you, I'm like, okay, I'm excited to read this because I'm like, she's strong, right? Just like I believe I'm strong, but the way we have to look at strong is different now, right? Because we don't throw it out with the bathwater. Because being someone who teaches on femininity, there are a lot of people now who are beginning to teach a version of femininity that I find frightening as a mother of girls, that suggests that you need to be passive and weak, and this concept of using the term submission, like subjugation, like just let someone take care of you. This is not saying that you don't get to be all that you are, that you don't express the power within you, but redefine strength. Not that you just keep taking it like a workhorse, right? You just keep taking it and you never say enough. I love that being able to say, no, 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 this doesn't work for me, right? No, 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 I can't accept that. No, 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 I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to design a life that makes sense for me. And I think that is a powerful message. And what you just said about free is one of my highest values, being free, right? I think it's going to set so many people free, because women do not give themselves permission to be free. We are so obligated, right? Across the diaspora. So can you give us, if we were to think about, like, I've read the book. You guys have to go get the book, right? Go get it on Amazon, right? Go get it wherever you are. Such a great read, and it's an easy read too. But for people who haven't read the book, who are saying right now, like, oh my gosh, that sounds good, but how do I get free? What are some like first steps?
So as with, with any kind of journey of development and growth, you've got to start with where you are. So if you think about it in the context of your career, and many people understand this in the context of their careers. If you want to advance in your career, so now you are a junior manager and you want to be a middle manager, you know that, okay, I've got to look at where I am from a skills perspective, what is required at the next level, what do I need to do to build up those skills? Do I need to do a course? Do I need to get certification? You have the conversation with your line manager and your peers or your stakeholders to get feedback on your performance. And then you work on the things that you need to work on. And then there's performance reviews and et cetera, et cetera. So there's markers that you have to be able to track your progress. And when it comes to personal development, people don't make that connection that actually, even in this, you still need to invest quite a bit of work. And the starting point is always, where am I now? And that requires you to look at, what am I doing? What brings me joy? What is not bringing me joy? What am I spending most of my time doing? Is the stuff that I'm spending most of my time doing actually giving, pouring into me, or is it draining me? Curating the people in your life. Who's in my life? How do I feel after interactions with these people? Looking at the way you work. Is this what I actually want to do? Is this the type of work that I find fulfilling? This type of work that I am fully equipped for? Is this what I want to actually do with my life, or at least for the foreseeable future? And then once you understand where you're at, but also then, now you've got all this information, but who are you? So what are your values? What are the things that are important to you? What are your non-negotiables? Because it's important to, on this journey, be able to establish your own boundaries, because it helps you understand what are the things that are going to help you and support you along your journey, and what are the things that are going to be hindrances to you. And you want to be able to work towards removing all of the hindrances, whether they're things or habits or behaviors or people, and start doing more of the stuff that's actually going to support your journey to becoming the person that you are wanting or aspiring to be. And have conversations with the people that are close to you, the people that are important to you. Understand how your relationship with them is impacting on them. Understand how do they feel after an interaction with you? What is their feedback in terms of, how you show up for them, in terms of how you show up in conflict, in terms of, your conflict resolution skills within that interpersonal relationship? Because we have to understand the whole spectrum of our humanity, and that's exactly it. It's about being able to have a full view of your humanity, and some things are going to be positive things which are easy to accept and take in and absorb, and there will be things that are very uncomfortable to hear. And we have to be in a space where we are receptive even to the things that are uncomfortable, because we have to go into these types of conversations and this kind of process with the understanding that none of us are perfect. All of us will have a lot of work to do. But in order for us to be able to do that work effectively, we have to be honest about where we're at. And so that's an important part of the process. And also just, working on, and I mean, in the book, I share some of the journal prompts that I use to kind of help me gauge where I'm at, how I'm doing, how I'm feeling. Journaling or doing something of that nature that helps you remain conscious of your journey, conscious of how you're showing up, the experiences that you are having on an ongoing basis, how you're progressing on your journey, how you are reacting to certain things or responding to certain things, and what is it that you actually need to start adjusting based on that. I think reflection is one of the most critical aspects of any journey of development, being able to look back at where you started, how you're progressing, what do you still need to work on, what is working well, and how can you continue to amplify that. But I think at the core of beginning this journey is understanding that no matter what you may find out about yourself through your own reflections or through the feedback of others, understanding that this is all part of your humanity, and to have grace for yourself, and to hold a safe space for yourself within that, because nobody is 100% good or 100% bad. We all have all of these different light and dark components to us. That's what the human experience is. And really, the more conscious we are of it, the more we can lean into the things that serve us best.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And you know, that piece of being able to start where you are, it sounds simple, but to your point, you have to, one, have grace for yourself. You have to have a sense of love for yourself, right? Because I think so many people are afraid to start where they are because they can't accept where they are, right? Because, you know, they have to, I think a lot of people, the reason why a lot of people struggle, especially for us women, because we really are not allowed, you know, the society has never really taught us that we get to be just as we are. Women are encouraged to be perfect, while men are encouraged to be accepted. You know, talked about that a bit in your book when you said boys will be boys, but women are constantly on this quest of perfecting themselves. You're a girl, don't you know you're a girl? You have to be this way, you have to be that way. It was interesting for me to read you talk about that in your book, being raised in South Africa, and I was raised in Nigeria, and I'm like, it was as if I was in her household because I could hear some of the same, like, oh my God. You know, when you talked about having your hips and your thigh, like, you know, you have your body feeling how you felt in your body, which by the way, I was like, if Celine's feeling this way, what do you want the rest of us to do? Because I've seen you in your bikini, okay? So I know what you're working with, right? But I remember feeling that way when I was young. And I remember when I would walk around, because I have a very curvy body and I have big hips, a big butt, all of that. And it wasn't in fashion when I was growing up. And so I remember I would walk around and I wanted so desperately not to have the body that I had. I wanted to be lean and skinny like everybody else, right? And so I would hold my hips rigid because I didn't want them to jiggle. You know, this was before I didn't want them to jiggle. So I would be so rigid in my walking when I was a young girl because I was so uncomfortable and I didn't know how to accept myself. Where, you know, think about the ways I didn't accept myself as in my mind, in my emotional self, in my sensitivity, in my creativity. And so I was not able to look within for a long time until I came to that place of, you know what, I am enough. I am the way God created me. This is good. So now let me look at myself, just like you said, right? I'm not going to hide from my shadows, right? The things about me that perhaps, okay, if I don't like them, I'm going to work on them. Things that were patterned maybe and programmed. Let me take a look and I have the courage to do that. And so it takes a lot to be able to do that, but it really is the key to your point because so many women, for me as a coach, I find so many women running from pillar to post, trying to find out how to get there, but they will not do the work to accept that you are here. And it's like getting a map that is showing the destination, but you have no idea where you really are on that map. And so you're constantly going, trying to chart your path, saying, oh, I'm actually in, it's like me saying I'm in Johannesburg, let me find my way to Lagos. I'm not in Johannesburg, I'm in Atlanta. And so if I don't accept that, I can never find my way. And so I think what you talked about, this courageous self-reflection, is so powerful. And I particularly loved the interview you did with your mom. And even if the part I could hear her, even though I've never heard her, but I could almost hear her say, it's enough. You're making like, think about all these
It, that's exactly it. You might as well have been there because I remember just sitting with her and asking her questions as I was writing. And I mean, at the time when I was having the conversation with her, just, you know, extracting the information from her for the book, I hadn't really detailed how far I'm going with this book. You know, I was very vague about it because I also didn't want her to, you know, condition herself before having the conversation with me. I wanted it raw. So it was interesting because I obviously started off with the relatively easy questions, you know, and then as I got deeper and deeper, all of a sudden she's just like shifting in her seat and she's fidgeting. She picks up her phone, she puts it down. She gets up, goes to the kitchen to get a snack, comes back, sits down, answers one question, gets up again, goes back to the kitchen. I was like, girl, is you all right?
You're gonna be a
It's like, oh, your questions. I was just like,
yeah.
actually, you know, this is a perfect example of what it feels like to be on that journey of self-reflection. It's incredibly uncomfortable, and you want to try to find an escape sometimes. And the power really is in resisting that urge to run away from yourself.
Somebody put that on there. That's a tweetable. The power is in resisting the urge to run away from yourself. Because when you allow yourself to come home to yourself, that's when you find the freedom. But you can't come true. You can't come home until you come true. And so that squirming, I can totally relate to it. I've been through it. I've seen people constantly. In fact, I had one of my programs, the mastermind, the first module is really self. People want to quit after that module because it's so like you're confronted with yourself. And now I tell them, like, you're going to hate me after this module, but stick with it. You're going to love yourself after. You have to do that work first. And it's so powerful when I see you, right? Even though you and I haven't talked in a while, like really talked, right? But when I watch you online, and I don't know, I think you put it on Instagram. So, you know, because you unveiled your love. I was like, oh, wait a minute. I see a little something, right? You unveiled your love, you know, and then when I contrast that with the story in your book about your daughter's father and how he wasn't there for you, and then the woman you were there then, but you had courage even then, right? Just to celebrate that and to keep walking through that courage. And then now I think about the woman you are now, right? And now you have this love in your life and you have work that you love, and you've set all these boundaries and you've created and curated this life for yourself. Here's the question, and this is for everyone that is feeling like, is this journey of self-discovery worth it? If this is this journey of this process worth it? When you think about the big shift between who you were as that girl and who you are today, and even who you're going to become, what makes you most joyful? What makes you most joyful?
You know, it's interesting that you asked me that question because earlier today I was doing a media interview, and one of the questions that she asked me was a similar one. And my response to her was that the biggest shift that I have noticed in my life from my younger years, and I mean, the younger goes all the way up to my early 30s, to now, is when I think about my life, every area of it, my work, my life as a mother, as a daughter, my relationship with myself, my romantic life, when I think about all of those components, at any given time, if I'm experiencing any kind of stress or anxiety, it's usually only related to money and nothing else. Everything else in life is in flow. And for me, that is the most beautiful thing because my life is peaceful. And it's peaceful because I have designed it in that way.
Yeah.
And doing it in that way required me to make a lot of very difficult decisions along the way. It required letting go of a lot of people that I thought would be in my life forever. But when I had to be honest with myself about, are these people going to fit into the picture that I envisioned for myself? No, they didn't. You know, and we have to make peace with shedding when we need to. It's healthy. Reveal new skin, you know?
Mm-hmm. I'm having a moment, like, with that, because I mean, I've been in that season for a bit myself, and I sort of been through a divorce in the last few years, just got finalized this year. And so I understand at so many levels, right? One of the primary relationship of my life, but then also with that was also releasing a lot of other relationships that no longer aligned with me, no longer aligned with who I was, or never really did. I just didn't have the courage to know myself then. And so I can totally relate to the courage to let go. And this is to glorify that for anyone listening. I'm not glorifying that. I'm not saying go out and get a divorce, but there are times when it has to, whether it's letting go of a relationship, whether it's letting go of a job, letting go of a business. There are times when you have to be able to let go in order to claim what God actually has for you. And in fact, I loved reading about your mother's, was it your mother? I think it was your mother, because she talked about, yes, when she let go of her relationship with her husband at the time, right? And she said our values don't align. I felt like honestly, I have to come to listen. I'm coming. When I'm coming, just prepare for me, because I feel like I'm part of this, like you guys, we're all connected, because I could have said the exact words verbatim, because she said, we're just asking all the time, why did you get divorced? And I said, we're not in alignment. We aligned in values. We weren't aligned in our vision for what we wanted. We had a very different way of looking at the world. And when I became truly true to who I was created to be, I could no longer lie about it. That's the truth. I had to own this, that we're not in alignment. No matter what I try to do, we can't be in alignment, and I have to let go. And a complete clarity of that. And especially for me being a Christian, sometimes, we feel even more confined. But I tell you, such freedom and a truly transformational experience in my faith, even with that. So I could totally relate to what you said, and how you said it, and how important it is for us to be able to do that, to let go, but also to take on when we need to, right? I wanted to, there's a question that just came up, and I wanted to see if we could answer that question, right? I'm going to attempt, no, I'm not going to attempt her name. Nomthandazo, right? I don't know if you can say the name, but it's a beautiful name. And she says, how do you say?
Nomtandazo.
Nomtandazo. Okay, I'm gonna get it. I love it. Does self-development sometimes look like being self-centered? Over to you, C.
Well, I'm very finicky about words, so I would say, instead of self-centered, I would say self-focused. Because the work that you're doing, so I feel like there's a difference between being self-centered and being self-focused. Self-focused is when you are in that space where you are working on developing, growing, evolving yourself. You're focused on self. And it does not imply being harmful to others. And self-centered, on the other hand, can imply being harmful to others, and when you're in that particular space. So serving self at the expense of others, there's so many different aspects and components to it, but I would definitely say self-focused. And if that is what you're referring to, then yes, because when you are in that space, there are a lot of things that you're going to say no to, which people may not be used to hearing you say no to them. and they will call you all sorts of names because of it, and you must be okay
Yes.
because you're doing what you're doing.
I love that. I think that's such a powerful way to look at it, being self-focused. And, I would just add to that to say, it is actually more self-centered not to do your work, because then you're not doing that inner, like one of the things you said earlier in the conversation, Celia, that you asked yourself, what are other people's experience of you?
Mm.
Say, how am I experiencing the world? But you were asking for feedback. You're wanting to, how am I existing from your perspective? And how is that impact? That's part of that work, right? And so people who have started to do their inner work are genuinely better to be around, right? And because even with the boundaries saying, listen, I can't do this because it will cause me not to thrive, right? Versus people do things to please others and then are passive aggressive, act in resentful ways, just trying to be good, but really you're not good. It is so empowering to start from self. And, even scripture says, love your neighbor as yourself. You can't give to your neighbor what you haven't given to yourself. So if you don't love yourself well, the kind of love you offer will be tainted, will be low quality. In fact, when I, with women, doing work with women, we talk a lot about relationships. And one of the most baffling things to some women is when a man says, I love you, and his behavior isn't loving.
Yeah.
And there, girl, right?
A lot of that.
And then it's like, well, he can't love me. And I'm like, no, actually, he may very well mean he loves you. It's just the quality of love he can offer you is not high quality love. He's offering you what he has. But look at the way he lives his life. He can't even love himself. He doesn't even know himself, right? So how can he offer you any quality of love? So the fact that he loves you is not the marker. It's the question of what's the quality of the person doing the loving. That's the key. And when you do your inner work that you have been doing, the quality of love you offer, the quality of life you live is completely different. And so if all of us are doing that, honestly, I wish being self-focused, it also means that you're not drawing on energy from other people. So many of us are just going around vampires because we don't know how to generate it within ourselves. So look, call it selfish, like she said, call it self-centered, call it full of yourself, whatever you need to call it, you do whatever you need to do. But I'm in that, I'm on that table, I'm in that boat, because I think it's so important for us to do that. So thank you for taking the time to detail that. And guys, by the way, if you have questions, this is a wonderful time to start putting those questions in the chat box so that we can start answering some of those questions. While we wait for that, I do have a question. Now, I know that you're very courageous and you're sure of yourself, right? But you talked a little bit about how you felt when you became a mother, right? So young. But I'm sure there are other instances, because whether or not you've been walked that path like Celia has walked, we've all had instances where life didn't quite go the way we wanted to, and we felt a little bit we've brought shame, or we didn't quite meet up, or there's a disappointment. The question I have is, how did you, as young, because she brought you here, that 19-year-old self brought you here, the 20-year-old self brought you here. What are some things you saw about how you coped and how you maintained a sense of self-worth through situations that didn't quite make you feel that way?
It honestly was not easy at all. In fact, I had a very hard time with coming back into, not even coming back, because to be honest, I can't remember a time, even in my teens, where I truly felt complete, and whole. So, after I had my daughter and just seeing how people were responding to me and how things change and how, you had a boyfriend and now you're a single mother, you had friends and now you don't, nobody comes to visit you, nobody is interested, and it was very painful and it was very lonely. And what initially happened was, so I had prenatal and postnatal depression. Um, and I really just kind of went into a shell. So I developed a habit of just keeping things to myself. So whether I'm going through a hard time, no matter what I'm struggling with, I will suffer in it by myself and not tell anyone and not share it with anyone. Because also I just really struggled with trusting people. Um, and I was constantly anxious about being abandoned again and again and again. And it was very difficult to shake all of those things. And so what it ended up doing was that I would then overcompensate to try and prevent more abandonment because I have experienced much of it. And the more I would do that, the more I would get further and further away from myself. Until I got to a point where I no longer knew who I was, I no longer knew what my voice sounded like, because I was constantly prioritizing what other people think, what other people say, what other people want me to do, and never really go, no, this is what I want, and that's it. So it took a very, very long time for me to get to that point. And it is a journey, right? Because even though I've come a long way, I must also acknowledge the fact that there will be triggers every now and then, because I mean, we're humans who are alive in a world that is full of triggers that trigger the very things we're working on. So there will be triggers every now and then, but now I have the tools to be able to regroup, recenter myself, um, and to really just be able to more effectively manage my emotions and my perceptions of what's happening around me. But now I'm able to look at my journey and look at my mistakes and look at where I have flourished and take pride in that, and take pride in the fact that I'm not even the same person that I was 3 months ago. And that's a great thing. So if you haven't spoken to me in a year, honey, you don't know me. We're strangers.
Hey.
I don't know her. And for me, that's a beautiful thing, because there's so many parts to me that I still need to explore. I mean, I'm 39 now, but there's still so much I need to learn about myself. I've only just scratched the surface. And also, one of the other things that had really kind of kept me from fully embracing myself was being constantly concerned about how I'll be perceived. So, for instance, if you think about, well, she consults in corporate spaces and her work is serious, so she must always look serious, be serious, dress seriously, otherwise she doesn't fit the mold. And I, made myself fit into that mold for the longest time. And then eventually I was like, wait a minute, who am I doing this for? Because yes, there is that part of me that does the serious stuff, but there's also a part of me that puts on a thong at the beach and twerks. There's a part of me that is out at the my girls drinking tequilas. There's a part of me that is out at a wine tasting looking elegant in heels and a pretty dress. There's so many aspects and components. There's a part of me that literally just wants to stay in bed and watch Netflix all day. And embracing all of those different parts of myself, I feel so much stronger to do that and be that, unapologetically so. So even when I post a bikini pic and I have a woman in my comments talking about I look like I'm desperate for penis, You know, I'm still just like, girl, I feel like the problem is with you. It definitely ain't here.
That's called projection. Projection.
Yeah, so, you know, yeah. I mean, if that had happened a few years ago, I would have probably felt some type of way. I would have probably deleted the pic because, oh, I don't want people to think. But no, I don't, I honestly don't care what you think. I'm not fazed by that.
As well, you should know. I'm like, when I see those photos, I'm like, awesome. It doesn't even cross my mind. And that's the thing, right? One of my favorite books is The Four Agreements. And one of the agreements is take nothing personally. Because what people see
Mm.
is them and their lens on life, right? So thank you for sharing that. And it's really, I think, one of the things that when I was listening to you talk about how difficult it was, I feel, again, while I haven't walked we all have the same experiences in various ways. The manifestations are different, right? So I haven't walked your exact story, but the emotions that you were talking about, feeling like, isolated, feeling as if, I can't trust people, becoming hyper independent, right? I have to rely on just myself. You could have been telling my story, and you're 39, I'm going to be 49 this year, right? So, I have 10 years of more of that sort of experience. And then talking about the triggers coming, because I experienced that as a young child. I experienced that as a teenager, feeling like I couldn't really trust anybody with my emotions, trust anybody with what I had been through, or no one really was going to be there for me at that level, right? Some of the that I had, that some of them I don't even talk about even till today, right? That levels of trauma that I can only take to my therapist's office. But then even for me, when I decided I was ending my marriage, I had a prayer. Let me give you an example. I had a prayer partner that I had prayed with for years. When I talk about years, and imagine a prayer partner, you shared so much. When I told her I was ending my marriage, she cut me off like I was like a diseased limb, honey. And it was so jarring for me. I think that was even more traumatic than me ending my marriage, because at least we are still amicable, we're still in communication. That was so shocking to me because that was someone I trusted deeply. And it started to trigger back that old wound of I can't trust anyone. And to your point about having the tools, because I had done the work, I had to then remember, I said, this is not about me. Her behavior is about her and stuff that I may or may not know that's going on with her. But for me, I choose to live my life in a way that says I have people I can trust. I had to start affirming myself again. I had to start actively seeking community and becoming intentional, saying, okay, all right, and so I applaud you for having these courageous conversations, because to me this is what strong really should look like versus performing strong. So I love, and so when I read your book, the title, Now Keep Your Strength, the way I read it, can I tell you how I read it, was keep your version of strength. I'm
Exactly.
mine, right?
Exactly. That is exactly it. Because the strength that we have been trying to live up to was never defined by us. We didn't sign up for it. We didn't develop the guidelines. We were not part of any of it. And yet, from birth, we are just socialized to pursue this thing that is only for us as women, Black women. No, do not want. Thank you very much. Nope. Give me zero.
There, we're starting over, and we're redefining strength all over again. So there's a question here, but before I ask that question, I'd like to ask you, if you were to redefine strength, no, you already redefined it, but maybe you can give us some particulars about what that looks like when you redefine strength for yourself. What is a strong woman in your definition of it?
Um, how I have defined it for myself is being strong looks like me having the courage to pursue the things that I actually want to do and that give me joy, even if that's scary at first, but to just lean into that and go after it, you know, and have faith that somewhere along the line, what is for me will find me, right? So there's a strength in trusting the timing of your life and trusting the process. Strength is also in being able to say, I'm sorry to the people that I need to say I'm sorry to.
Yeah.
Strength is also no to the things that I don't want to do. Not saying, oh, okay, well, we'll see, maybe, no. If I don't want to do it, it's a no. And no is a full sentence. I'm not going to explain or justify why I'm saying no. Strength is being able to say to my daughter, what do you think I could do better as your mom? How could I better support you? And also being able to say to her, right now is my time and I'm not available to you in this moment.
Right.
Ma'am, please close my bedroom.
Been there, done that. Yes.
And strength for me has also been able to walk away from romantic relationships, regardless of how it looks, regardless of how old I am, regardless of what people are going to say, because it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the quality of my life. And those people who have something to say are not going to be ensuring that the quality of my life is what I need it to be. And so their opinions actually do not matter. And the other aspect of it for me is being able to be and show all versions of myself. So there's strength in sharing my full story in this book, you know, and really just like stripping in front of everyone. And also showing the good stuff, you know, understanding that there are highs and lows, you know. And I think one of the other things is really just about being open to learning from others, and understanding that you will never know everything, you will never understand everything, and there's so much that we can learn from other people if only we are open to it and not walk around kind of looking down on anyone or thinking you're smarter or better than anyone else, because you're not. You know, we're just in different places and different spaces, but you never really know what's happening in anybody's life. But I believe that everybody has something that they can teach us. Now, how that lesson lands is a different story, but everybody has something to teach us. And if we are open to looking for the lessons and growing with those lessons, you know, there's a strength to that. But we don't take no shit. Okay, let's just be clear. We are not mad that people can just walk all over. We don't do that, no. So that's the other aspect of strength, to be able to say, nah, not on my watch, not here. I'm not the one.
I love it. I'm not the one. Yes. Thank you. I love that definition. I love it. And it sounds like it's also evolving. It continues to evolve, you know, because we women were dynamic. And so I think I resonate with pretty much everything you said. And one of my favorite pieces is that I get to be all of me at all times and refusing to be confined to what someone thinks I should be or shouldn't be based on whatever it is. So I'm the one that's spiritual, and I'm going to show you and be spiritual in the way that makes sense to me. I'm the one professional, and so I'm going to be professional in the way that makes sense to me. So I think that that is such a powerful and necessary definition of strength and indeed success, right? So thank you for sharing that. So here's another question, same lady. So I'm going to read the question verbatim, and then perhaps you can fully understand what she's trying to say here. I think she's trying to ask if someone is not receptive. So she says, for someone who can believe in self-work and does the work, how is it possible that when others do the work or set boundaries, it comes as something that is hard to accept? I think that's what she's saying. So, so it sounds to me like she's asking if she's encountered someone who says they've done their work, or says they've done their work, but they don't seem to accept when other people are, doing their work and saying no, right? What would you say to that? I'll keep my thoughts until you speak.
Honestly, the first thing I'm going to say is that they're not doing the right work.
Is it good?
What work they do?
Go
They're
ahead.
doing some work, ain't that work.
They need more work.
They need more work. Because when you are working on being conscious in this space and on this work of self development and self mastery, regulating your emotions and responding versus reacting are very critical skills that you invest in learning, because you have to be in a space where when others have boundaries and communicate those boundaries, that you can recognize that that is their boundary and therefore you must respect it, but not internalize it and make it personal and center yourself in that story, because it's not about you. So if you're still making it about you, making other people's things about you, then maybe put in a few more hours and let's see.
Yeah, I 100%. And the work is always, so there's no like, even though we use this term a lot, it's really not a correct term in that we say, oh, I've done my work. What
Oh no.
mean is that I've done some foundational work, and the more correct term is I am doing my work, because you're consistently doing. And you may discover a part of yourself. Like I'm a coach, but I'm confronted with myself quite honestly often, like, wait a minute, where did that come from? Let me let me go back and unpack that. Ooh, what is that? What was that energy? What was that jealousy? What was that anger? What was that insecurity? Because the human condition is growth, which is why I don't believe in gurus. And anyone who tells me I've got it all together, you should look at me. I'm actually more and more concerned about that person, right? Because we are constantly growing. So here's the other side of that. If you are the person that's feeling as if this person says they've done their work and they are not responding to you the way you want them to respond. Because here's the other thing I've discovered. As someone who works with thought leaders and authors and people like yourself, iconic woman type of thing, right? People come to you with their expectations on how you should behave, and they're not really, they don't necessarily want to meet you in your humanity. They want to meet the persona they have built up about you in their heads. And so when you don't react the way they think you should react, then they are judging you, right? And so what I would say, if you're having that experience where you've maybe met someone, right? I've heard this many times before. I met this woman, she used to be my mentor in my head. And then when I met her in person, she wasn't this, that, or the other. And they come with such, and they don't realize it's such judgment of a human being, right? Who may that day, who may have gone through different things, who is a human being human, right? Have grace for that person. Have grace for them as they continue to do their work. Understand that they're people too. And so, and here's the other thing for me, one of my guidelines in the last, like, that has served me well in the last, maybe, I don't know, 6 years or so as I continue to grow, is, I don't know if you know this about me already, but I'm a Bible geek, love scripture. But here's the scripture that I want to call out. It says, when you see, before you take out the speck in your neighbor's eye, right? Take out a log in yours. And what I use that for me is to say, whenever I see something in someone else, it should make me stop and say, what is happening inside of me? So whenever I that person, oh, they need to get their act together. I need to, oh, wait a minute. If I can see a speck, it means there's a log. Let me go and take a look at myself. So just encouragement to you guys. So here's another.
You know, it's one of the things that I always stress as well, that it is a journey. There is no final destination. You never reach a final destination because we're constantly evolving, you know. Just like I was saying, who I was last year is not who I am this year, and so on and so forth. That's how it will be. But also, you know, as someone who works as a consultant and as a coach and as an author and all of these things, you know, the work, aside from the relationships that I have, the work that I do comes with so much responsibility. And in order for me to be able to handle that responsibility appropriately, it means that I am almost constantly tested and pushed and triggered so that I'm able to develop the appropriate skills to be able to be a good shepherd to the people that I am working with, the people that are entrusting their lives and their careers to me. And you know, the point that you're making now about, you know, looking at the log in your own eye, I was actually having a conversation with my own coach, because I have a coach as well, earlier this week, and I was sharing with her an experience that I had, and I gave all of the details, and at the end of it I said, as much as that's how I felt about that experience, I couldn't help but wonder why you know, why did I feel that way? Why did I respond in that way? What is it that I need to be looking deeper into? Um, and it's not easy, because I would love to be perfect. I would love to just be coasting through life without a worry in the world. But life is, you know, particularly a conscious and free life does require work, unfortunately. It don't come easy.
No, it doesn't. And you know, this is the thing I was reflecting on the other day. You know, I think it's the Asian culture. When they cook, they use all the flavors, right? Savory, sweet, spicy, but they also use bitter.
Mm.
And we need bitter sometimes, right? That part that, so the things that we have, you know, we've been taught this sort of bubblegum way of looking at life, like everything has to be ta ta ta, but that contrast necessary. That acid is necessary sometimes, right? And it just makes the bitter makes the sweet better. So I embrace all of that now, right? As I continue to go on my journey. And I love to see women like yourself embracing and modeling that. So, you know, it's just incredible to see and to say. And, you know, we can be talking, we could literally talk for hours and hours, but I want to be mindful of your time and honor your time, because you've given us so much of it already today, and so generously of yourself. You gave even more generously of yourself in your book. So she has two wonderful books, right? So the latest book is what we're talking about, and this book is for everyone, and it's Nah. There you go. You can keep your strength. And look at the beautiful women on the cover. Three generations, three beautiful generations, mom, grandmom, and daughter. And I encourage you to go get this book right now. Her other book, We Are the Ones We Need, right, is still available. Also very powerful. And of course, her podcast, The Workplace Revolution. If you're not listening to it, you're missing out. Okay. Anyway, I'm not gonna. I cannot. We don't have time, because I've been listening to the podcast. There were a couple I wanted to talk about. I was like, oh, we have to focus on the book. We have to focus on the book. So it's good. But before we close, I wanted to give you an opportunity for last words. And if there's something you want people to do or connect with you, or maybe you have a project coming up or something, please, by all means, take your space.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So my books are available on Amazon if you're out of South Africa. And if you are in South Africa, they are available on my website, sihlepolani.co.za. You can follow me on Instagram for any updates relating to my work or events that I'll be at. And also, I will be starting a book club for people who have read my book. So get your hands on a copy if you want to be in conversation with me, and let's really get to the meat of this thing, because there's so much for us to chat about, and I really do want to create more platforms for women to be in community with each other and to grow together. Essentially, that's really at the core of everything that I do.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for being our iconic woman for this season. And just as a reminder to everyone, and you will agree with me that Sikle embodies these qualities. An iconic woman is a woman who's inspirational, who's courageous, who is an original, who is necessary, who is intentional, and who is compelling. So thank you so much for being part of this conversation. I appreciate you.
Wow.
Thank you.